Hey guys, subscribe for daily content. And if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks!
What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got a short little knife review slash knife overview to share with you guys. This is the Kansept Rafe. Is that a bottle opener up there? It is. When I unboxed this knife, I said I didn't really like the idea of having a bottle opener right here because it's kind of like you've got an exposed edge out while you're opening a bottle. And as most of you expertly put, the idea is most likely to close the knife first and then use the bottle opener. So thank you for pointing that out to me. Moment of stupidity there. That's obviously what that's for. Thank you for helping me. Thanks so much to Kansept for sending this in for review. Thanks to my patrons for supporting me. And please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. This is, considering what it is, in this particular case, we have titanium and S35VN. It also comes in a slightly less expensive micarta and S35VN variant. And if it doesn't exist yet, I didn't see it. If it doesn't exist, this knife definitely should have a more budgety version. I mean, I feel like this knife works much better as a budget knife than it does a premium knife, just considering, I don't know, it's just my opinion, right, with a bottle opener in it. But yeah, it's not a horribly, crazy price tag considering what it's made out of. It's also made very well. Kansept makes a nice knife. So I'll link it right down in the description. You can check it out if you want to. It does help my channel and use those links, but that's entirely up to you. Let's go ahead and get a measurement of this knife. Overall length of the Kansept Rafe coming in at just over 6 inches, about 6 1/16. Blade length 2 1/8. Cutting edge is 2.65. Cutting edge is 2.5 inches. Let's go ahead and do some size comparisons. Any custom skills you find in this section can be found down in the description under Original Goat and Others. Up against the 8010 and the 8020.5. This is obviously a pretty small knife, really. Let's put it up against the Spyderco PM2 and the Spyderco Para 3. Closest in size to the Para 3. It's worth pointing out the cutting edge is somewhat similar to the cutting edge on the Spyderco Para 3. And then last but not least, let's put it up against the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue and the Hogue Deca. How's the action? It's pretty much what you'd expect. It's got, in this case, actually an exposed steel liner lock. Dropping the blade with one hand will bring just that back corner right behind the sharpening edge down on your fingernail, but it's not a lot of weight, so not really that big of a deal. Front flipper is all right. It's got a nice one good big jimp up there that allows you to get after it. You can use the fuller to reverse flick it. And honestly, the flipper tab back here works really well. That's the number one. It's a full-on light switch, and it works perfectly. I think the D10 is great if you're going to light switch it. You can't really push button it because this runs into your finger. So it's light switch, and then get your finger out of the way. Fortunately, and I say fortunately because I don't like smaller titanium frame locks because I find it annoying to like focus a certain amount of mental energy on figuring out where I got to put my hands when I flip it so I don't put too much pressure on the lock bar. This is a liner lock, so you just flip it, right? You don't have to mess around with that. You just flip it. Depending on the design, some frame locks obviously are better than others. On this, I'm glad it's a liner lock. Let's go ahead and do carry profile. Thickness up against the Spyderco Para 3, a little bit thicker, not bad. There is a little bit, you know what? It's not though. It's not contouring. It's heavy chamfering with a flat up here, but it does kind of feel like that. Length and height up against the PM2 and Para 3. This is not a cumbersome object. It is not a difficult object to carry. And it's also not small or light enough for you to forget that it's in your pocket, at least not in my experience. Go ahead and do a hardware check. I'll get out my tools as per usual. My tools are very inexpensive and very recommendable. You can find them right down in the section of my description that talks about the tools I use on this channel. We have almost certainly a T8 pivot, and then we have a T6 screw for the clip and body, and then probably something press fit in here to hold the other side of the backspacer in. Minimal hardware. I wish it was not T6, but oh well. Should be easy to take apart as long as you have the right tools for the job. You should be good to go. Let's go ahead and measure blade stock thickness. We are nearing the end of the battery's life. This particular battery made it quite a ways. This is a thick blade for how small. Yeah, 160 thousandths. I think a lot of people say, well, that's, you need You need that, for all the bottle opening. Do you? I don't think so. It's a pretty thick blade, but okay. It's not crazy, right? It's just thicker than I would have expected. Let's go ahead and weigh it. Materials, titanium, steel liners, and an S35VN blade. I bet it weighs about 3.5 ounces. More, 3.8 ounces. Heavy for the size, but not heavy in terms of just objects that you might carry in your pocket. Still under 4 ounces, right? Balance on this knife is right there where you're going to have your index finger in the standard grip, though I prefer to be choked up definitely on this knife. Let's go ahead and move into the meat and potatoes and just jump right into ergonomics. Yeah, it's a smaller, kind of chunky little knife, right? Choked up is my preferred position on this knife, but truthfully, while carrying and using it, I found myself holding it more like this or like this, right? Doing your draw cuts and things, it's actually totally fine. Not often are you going to be hammer gripping this knife, but in terms of just sitting here and holding it and trying to find a good, comfortable ergonomic grip, it's choked up. That's the best, but you are a bit close because this isn't really a full forward choil area, right? It's just kind of a flat area on the frame and then the sharpening choil. So you're kind of in danger of running up on the blade, but most of the time you're not really going to find yourself holding it like that, right? Back here in the standard grip, it's 3-finger, which is annoying to me, but then again, it's a small knife, right? So that's just, you take that for what it's worth. We have some speed holes here, which does help reduce the weight, right? And it goes through to the steel. It's fine. Some people like the holes, some people don't. The jimping is definitely functional. I think that's nice. It offers a bit of additional lock-in where, a knife like this, like if whatever I'm going to be using it for, especially, I got to keep pointing this out, especially if the implication here is that you're going to be sitting around drinking. Now, probably not sitting around drinking and then going out and using the knife, but it's safe to say that the combination of those two things is much more likely with this knife. So I guess in the rarest of circumstances where I'm like, I'm going to have a few and then go use this, I'm glad I can lock in, I guess, right? I guess, whatever. That's very circumstantial. Not really a ton going on here, but then again, it's not a horrifically expensive knife. I don't know that I expect much more out of it. And truthfully, it's pretty uncommon to see a blade bottle opener combination. Personally, I like my bottle openers to not be attached to a bladed object. I keep a bottle opener on my keys. That's just where I like to keep it. But if you don't want to do that, then you really specifically only cut things and open bottles, then this might be a good one for you, right? I think it just depends on who you are. Satin finish on the blade. We've got more of a sheep's footy thing than anything. And like I said, I like these style blades for doing draw cuts, which I find myself doing more often than most things. It's opening boxes and doing draw cuts, right? Or opening boxes like this. That's what I find myself doing, right? Cutting edge, I don't know. I guess it's kind of thick for a smaller knife, but like if we're just comparing to like your average folding knife, I think it's kind of reasonable. It's kind of like in the middle. The slicing, right out of the box, factory edge will definitely slice just fine. No hang up or anything like that. Obviously, cutting paper doesn't prove much, but it's good. It's fine. It's good to go. It'll do what you want it to do. Bevel is even. There's a nice tip there. Everything looks good. It's a little sharp, especially out here. I don't know if that'll bother you or not, but it just is. We've got codes and the blade steel right here, which is S35VN. I think that's great. I still think S35VN is one of the best all-around, modern super. I would say modern. S35VN has been around a long time, but it is powder formed. It is made by Crucible, and it's a great steel. So it's fine. I'm glad that we can get it on knives that aren't hyper expensive. It's still a fairly expensive knife, but not hyper expensive anymore. That's great. We have the designer logo back here, and then we have, I think it's like I tried to remember this. If you go to the link, you can see the designer. It's like a series of numbers and letters is the design team or the design person behind it. I'm not familiar with them, but the listing will have the designer listed, so I'm sorry about that. And then it says Rafe right here. You guys know my thoughts about putting the name of the knife on the knife. I don't like that. I think that's kind of corny, but okay. Outside of that, it's just very simple. We have, in this case, a blue flush titanium backspacer. I think it's titanium. It's possible that it's aluminum, but it looks like titanium to me. Depending on the version that you get, that might be a little bit different. They have black washed versions. Again, they have different colors of micarta. They've even got different colors of titanium. I saw some purple in there, perhaps some other colors. So if you like the idea and you're just not into the, really plain Jane, just Terminator look with the tie and the satin finished steel and the blasted tie, you might check out some of the other colors. We do have a milled pocket clip, which is kind of pinchy, I think, just because it's smaller, but the retention's not terrible on it. The clip, I don't notice it so much ergonomically, but I think the reason is because I'm so focused on the fact that I'm trying to get some type of ergonomic for whatever reason. I mean, a knife this small, I'm not sure how much it matters, right? Being able to just hold on to it reasonably comfortably is the main thing. I don't think about the clip as much, but it is a shorter clip. I'm glad that they didn't go, let's put a standard size clip on a small knife. No, they made a smaller clip for a smaller knife, and that's the right thing to do, right? Not super sharp anywhere, and it is milled in and out of the pocket. Honestly, it's pretty easy. No need for a steel lock bar insert because the whole liner is steel, so that's great. We have a stop pin actually located internally and attached to the blade. You can see it's actually 2 pins that follow some channels or sort of carved out on either side of the steel liners. So we have an additional point of contact over a traditional stop pin, which is just 1 point of contact. And I like that because it offers it keeps the blade from being wiggly while maintaining good smoothness and action, stuff like that. So lockout is absolute. We're not going to be doing anything crazy with this knife unless you're somebody who doesn't understand what pocket knife should be used for, especially smaller ones, right? So for those of you who use your knives appropriately, you don't need to worry about the lockout. It's going to lock out. It does what it's supposed to do. The lockout is solid. No lock stick. No, no double clutch. But again, that back corner is still going to come down on your fingernail if you like to disengage your knives with one hand. No pivot lash. Nice and smooth and consistent in here. And honestly, just about a perfect detent for the size of knife and the, means of deployment that are offered to you. This is a pretty niche product, and I think it's kind of like I said earlier, for what it is, for the materials, the execution, all that, like if you really like how this looks and you're big into that, then the micarta ones come in at 120 and these titanium ones come in at 150. Now, we're always going to have that crowd of people who just cannot get their heads around the idea of something they consider to be small having a price tag, especially if they're more of a Cabela's and Walmart knife shopper, having a price tag that's substantially more than some large knife that they saw once for $45, right? Sometimes that's as far as people are capable of thinking. A lot of you guys know better, but at the same time, this type of thing should probably not be created, in my opinion. For some people, they're going to go, no, I specifically want titanium or micarta and S35VN. If that's you, then you should buy this. This is really great. But I think there are just substantially more people out there who would only be interested in this type of thing in budget materials for more of a budget price tag. It's not that they should be taking titanium and S35VN, making this knife and charging less. They should be making this product out of something like G10 or micarta and 14C28N or whatever, 154 cm, 9CR 18 MOV, D2, and just charging less for it. That's my opinion. This makes much more sense as a budget knife because it's kind of, the combination of these elements, I think, appeals to the crowd that doesn't really like to spend, a lot of money on, a pocket knife just to have more designer elements, right? I'm somebody who collects knives. I'm somebody who periodically spends thousands of dollars on a single pocket knife. But the concept of having, basic utility for, a price that is reasonable on an object that's going to be taken out and used as the object it was designed to be, that's not lost on me. I understand that. Exists on both ends of the spectrum here in more ways than one. But yeah, it's kind of weird that they don't have like a budget version of this, unless they do, and I just didn't see it, right? It's okay the way that it is. I don't really have a problem with this. I don't think the price for what they built here is off. I just don't think this is for everybody. So not a bad product, not the most amazing thing in the whole world I've ever seen. Certainly something that will make some people very, very happy. Just be careful and be responsible, whatever it is you're going to use this for. please, like I said, link down in the description. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.